Seriously.
I want to hear more about your art. Yeah. So, so when I mean, maybe I can speak for others, but that your art is reflective and of this place. I mean, it's all over town right now. I mean, it's in the conservatory. I mean, where else is your art?
Mississippi Mud,
Right.
Alton Music Exchange, Mineral Springs Mall,
Yeah.
sometimes Jacoby Art Center.
Well, so tell me more about the event at the conservatory.
Event at the conservatory. I feel blessed and fortunate to be able to work with those guys down there.
Yeah.
You know, a perfect example of Alton. Like they went to open up a new bar. They locally asked friends, literally just friends of theirs, like, hey everybody, we're opening a bar and we have zero budget to decorate this bar. Right. And as soon as I saw that, I called them up and said, I'll decorate that whole bar, just let me do it. And at first they were like, yeah, sure, well, we'll see what you got. And then they came to my house and they were like, hey, you need to get over here. This guy's got, you know, this, you know. But anyhow, yes, the event at the conservatory, fourth Thursday of the month. Yeah. I put in the three things I kind of like, fashion, art, and music. Yeah. So they gave me the opportunity to have my own night and do my own thing. So it's an event of art, fashion, and music. Right. So we've got an old school DJ usually, and I try to have a guest artist who can show free for 1 month. And they get one wall in the conservatory. And then I like to have a couple fashion guests do pop-up shops. And it's always handmade type stuff. So if you design your own clothes or make your own clothes or design or make your own jewelry, we have a couple areas where you can buy that kind of stuff. And we just added artisan focaccia bread by Rory Morse, who's down with Louis Pizza, another local guy, and he's making focaccia breads with landscapes on them, and they're crazy, man. Like, I was literally going through the crowd going, attention, everybody, over here, you gotta come look at this bread.
Food is art too.
Hey.
And he brings it.
You know what? Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right, yeah. So we've met maybe 5-6 years ago. I didn't know you were an artist at the time. And then I started seeing your art around town, but I didn't know you weren't from here. How long have you been in Alton?
I've been in Alton about 18 years.
18 years, all right.
And I grew up in southern Indiana.
Yeah.
I was Deadhead. During the early 90s, I was a Deadhead, traveled with the Dead. Went to Indiana University for a couple of years.
What did you study at Indiana University?
Nothing. No studying occurred. That's probably the problem. But I spent my entire time there in general studies, because you can go there for like 2 years without declaring a major. So that's right about the time, you know, I was getting the boot.
But you were you were in college for a while, like
a couple of years, and yeah, and then I went and toured with the Dead for 4 years. Yeah. Saw the Grateful Dead 55 times with Jerry Garcia. Okay. And that was one of the moments that formed me as a human being. Really changed my outlook on life. I didn't realize there were situations where like-minded people were so loving.
Sure.
I think towards the end, like 94, 95, it got a reputation as a place to party. Mm-hmm. And of course the party was great, but it started changing to the people that were coming were only there to party. Yeah. And that was kind of diluting the feeling of it. Yeah.
Tell me, so, I mean, what it meant to tour with the Grateful Dead, because that was a thing. I mean, I caught the tail end of it myself.
Yeah.
But I mean, they had a real community, and I didn't get it until maybe 15 years ago. From back then.
The largest traveling group in the world at the time. Yeah. You would see a show. After the show, you'd go to a campground. The next morning, 5,000 to 10,000 people would travel from one show to the next. So you have 5,000 or 10,000 people that are traveling from Indianapolis to, say, Chicago. You're driving down the highway, as far as you can see in front of you, as far as you can see behind you, kids tearing it up. Yeah. Truly, probably the most changing experience of my life.
Yeah, sure. And so where were you born? Where did you grow up?
Indiana.
You well, in what town?
Born in Indianapolis. I grew up in the country on 60 acres, and until I was 14, and my parents got divorced, and then I lived with my mom and went to an inner city Indianapolis high school. Wow, okay. And my parents were never racist, and as a child, I guess I didn't understand racism, because unfortunately, where I grew up, there was no diversity at all, and unfortunately, the area I was from was known for being very racist, and I guess I didn't realize that until I left. So I was extremely happy to move to an inner city high school, because it gave me that not only a country background, but then a city experience. And I really think like the variety of experiences you have, often with travel and different places you lived, so valuable when you're looking at the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you carried that through college, and so while you were in college, you ended up
While I was in college,
yeah.
I got invited to my first Grateful Dead show. I went from basically burr haircut went to my first Grateful Dead show and didn't cut or shave for the next 15 years.
There you go, right.
Yeah, I took it serious.
That's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then Jerry died, and then I went to mechanic school to be a Harley-Davidson mechanic. Then I was a Harley-Davidson mechanic for 5 or 6 years.
After touring.
Yeah, after that. And then I quit that and decided I was going to cash out my 401k and move to Colorado. And by cash out my 401k, I mean I probably had a few $1,000s. Like, for me, $2,000 or $3,000 is a lot of money. So I thought, well, I'm gonna move to Colorado and build an earthship, and that did not work out. And then I wound up homeless, and that's what brought me to St. Louis. So I had an aunt that lived in St. Louis, so I came and stayed with her, and then I started working at City Museum. And for any of you people who've never been to City Museum, go. It's world class. It'll enrich your life. It'll change your life. It's the most amazing place. And after working there for a couple of years, I've always made interesting things. But after that experience, because I was on their construction crew, I was like, this is what I want to do permanently. Like, I just want to that's what I want to do. I just want to be an artist.
What'd you do there? Like, so you worked on the construction crew?
Yeah, no, they at the time I was there, they were doing the caves. So it was basically,
is that right? Downstairs?
Yeah, the whole cave complex is like what? How many stories tall?
Well, like 2 or 3 at least.
No, I'm gonna go with 10. I don't know. It's it's unbelievable.
And you were part of building that?
Yeah, and Bob Castley was a character.
He was the guy who made it, right?
Yeah, he was the original mad scientist. This guy was nuts.
Yeah. So you were on a path, and I mean, you were figuring things out. Sounds like. I mean, one step to the other, connecting dots. You ended up in St. Louis.
Yeah.
Because of a family member.
Yep. And I was living in a studio apartment in St. Louis, and I knew that I could not live my entire life making minimum wage as a 30-year-old working at City Museum. So I started, what brought me to Alton is actually a friend of mine said, hey, you can buy a house for $1 in North St. Louis. So I'm going to look into that. Yeah. So I actually looked at over 40 houses before I came to Alton. Mainly I was looking for affordable housing.
Okay.
And there's still affordable housing in Alton.
Right, yeah.
And the history, the architecture, the scenery, when you combine that with affordable housing, the artists just start pouring in.
So do you remember your first visit to Alton?
Absolutely. You know, you come over the bridge and you see Alton up on the hill, and you automatically want to check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where had you been looking otherwise? You said you maybe were looking at the city.
Yeah, East
Yeah.
St. Louis, North St. Louis.
Yeah.
And I bought my house for $12,000
In Alton?
cash. Of course, I had to borrow the cash. My dad, I think, you know, after being homeless,
Yeah.
I think my parents were like, well, we really don't want him living down by the river or, you know, in a van.
So you found a place to live, and so you've been here now for 18 years. Is that right? Yeah. Since you found that house?
Yeah.
So I look at your art and your work, and it's like you are of Alton. You know, I mean, this really feels like that you're part of who I think of and who a lot of people think of as the community in Alton, especially the art community, right?
Maybe.
What do you feel that way? Like, do you feel like that's who you are in this community?
I don't think about it.
You don't think about it, yeah.
Do
you feel at home here?
Oh boy, I feel great here.
Yeah.
Very comfortable. It's not big city living. Yeah. It's not country living, but it's still like, you can walk down, if you're walking down the sidewalk here, you kind of feel inclined to say, hey, or if you're in St. Louis, I mean,
right.
You're walking down the sidewalk in St. Louis, you don't say hi to the person you're passing.
Right.
Here, you kind of feel obligated, like, hey, what's up?
Right.
How you doing?
And it's genuine.
Yeah, and people,
right.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you describe the art scene in Alton right now? And then where do you see it going?
The art scene in Alton is emerging.
Yes.
A bunch of random people who are all just doing it to do it. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't make any money. I mean, I'd like to eventually make some money doing art, but really all I do is I work and spend all my money to make art. Mm-hmm. It's a complete, total 100% financial loss. Mm-hmm. And I don't care. Yeah. Because this is what I enjoy doing.
So you've been here 18 years and you chose to move to Alton and stay here. What was that moment?
I distinctly remember this moment. Okay, so when I first moved to Alton, the downtown was a lot wilder than it is now. They've kind of cracked down on the block parties. When I first moved to Alton, they'd have these block parties. They'd block off the streets downtown. They'd have 2 stages, these bands, and the streets would be filled. And I was like, man, what's going on down here, right? I walked into, Max used to have this side building, which is now a convenience store, but they used to have like a club, like a dance club in there. And I walked in there, people dancing with each other, talking with each other. It's like all these people were just happy and getting along, like, and I thought that was such a beautiful moment that I want to experience different cultures, different people. I feel like Alton is a mix of cultures, and you can be yourself here. Yeah. If you enjoy culture and freedom, and you're accepting, please come join us. We'll make you feel right at home.
Yeah, absolutely.